Hey everybody, welcome. Okay, can you believe we are already on to project number 5 for our Fast and Festive 5 series? Oh my goodness, this has gone really fast, but I have enjoyed crafting with you all this week. I've enjoyed getting to see how many of you have logged in to watch the replays as well. And today we are topping off with our 5th and final project for this series. Now, Monday, we are going to be having a Craft Tech Talk hour. It's actually going to be our first one ever. And so if you'd like to join us Monday afternoon, let's see, is it at 4:30 or 12:30, babe? Can you remind me? 4:30. Yeah, I'll double check. I'll double check that for you guys at the end. But we are going to be having a Craft Tech Talk hour. And our Craft Tech Talks, if you haven't heard of this before, and I will literally get on and answer as many questions as possible in an hour where we will talk about anything that is tech-based, think design space, or technique-based, think like application of why isn't this sticking or why isn't this working, things like that, things that kind of trip you up in the process and keep you from the joy of crafting. There is going to be a link below in this video description that is a submission form for questions. So if you haven't already submitted your question, we've got several submissions already, but if you haven't already submitted your question, go ahead and do that at the end of our live today. If you have any questions at all around technique or technology when it comes to crafting in the cutting machine / general crafting world. If I don't know the answer to it, I will tell you I don't know the answer to it, and I will do some research and see what I can find answers to for you guys. All right, so today we are going to be making personalized photo pillowcases. Photo pillowcase. Yeah, that's a great alliteration, right? Welcome, Shannon. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, great alliteration, right? My husband's over here like, yep. All right, so we're going to be making these today, and they are a lot of fun. This is definitely the most personalized project we have made all week, I think, just because you can get those family photos in there, those vacation photos. I want to do one of just my puppy dogs. Like, we're obsessed with our Métis Golden Retriever and Liberty, our fabulous Frenchie. I want to do one just of like their faces. I think that would be so much fun. So much fun. All right, so let's talk about supplies first before we dive into the setup, because this file here is provided for you as an A-star. So just go to the Craft Vault, log in, look for that Fast and Festive 5 under the Collections tab, and you'll see this option. And this is provided for you, this template that I used. You're going to want to use a square pillow. So that's going to be like the easiest road for you. So this is like a perfect square. I'm using a 12 by 12 inch in this example, but I wanted to show and demonstrate today a larger one, okay? We have size limitations with our cutting machines. Everything has limitations. So the widest you can cut on any of the Cricut, aside from the Venture, is 11.5 inches. So I'm going to go with that size, which is also this one here, but I'm going to put it on a bigger pillowcase. And all that's going to do is we'll still have the very pretty pictures. We'll have the collage, but there'll be like a white frame around it, right? Because we'll have that extra white space, which will be cool. So I wanted to do one today that was different from this. In case you're working with different size pillowcases, you can get a feel for what that might look like. I would say this is great if possible because you get that full look. An ideal one, if you want a little white space, would be like a 14 or 16 inch pillowcase. Mine's 18 though, the one we're doing today. So you'll need a pillowcase of some kind. You can get a cotton one. The one I'm using is polyester based. So that it's more like almost sublimation based where it's like 100% polyester, but either can work fabric wise. You're going to need to have vinyl, of course. So for the black part of it, the frame that goes around, that's everyday iron-on. So I'm using everyday iron-on for the black frame part. And then for the printable, you're going to need to have an inkjet printer. And I'm using Cricut's printable iron-on for light fabrics. If you happen to be using like a black pillowcase for some reason, you may want to opt for the dark fabric one because they do make 2 versions, okay? But I'm using the light fabric one. And I've been pretty happy with, this came out just last year, and I've been pretty happy with the results of it. And it turns out pretty well. So yeah, the Cricut printable iron-on for light. And then of course, we're going to use a cutting machine. So I'm using my Cricut model here. The only Cricut you can't use with this project would be like the Cricut Joy Original because it doesn't do print and cut. If you're doing the Cricut Joy Extra, you are going to have a different size limitation. So maybe you make like a cute smaller pillow or something like that. That could be a possibility for you. You might have to get creative with the pillowcase options that are out there. But any of the Explorer Maker models are going to work for you. And if you happen to have a Venture, you could really get excited. Like you could really have fun with that. All right. And then you're also going to have, of course, a weeding tool, a cutting mat, a brayer tool for pressing the materials in the mat. I'll show you that in a moment. And you're going to want to probably have potentially a measuring tape depending on how big your pillowcase is. That's kind of optional in this case, but I always have one just in case. You'll also need to have a heat press because we're going to be pressing these to fabric. So I'm using the Easy Press 3 here. You can use Easy Press 2 or any other model of heat press. We'll get the job done as well. And we'll go over temperature settings as we get into this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into our setup to show you how to get your pictures into the actual frame that I have for this file. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Actually, give me just 1 second here because I just realized I didn't have my picture ready to drag and drop over to Design Space. And I don't want to have to like walk you guys through my entire file finder because it is a hot mess. Give me 1 second just to pull it up. There we go. Okay. So let me grab my photo. It's taking its sweet time to load. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come over here and share my screen. There we go. All right. So I was running another test last night. And I'm just going to pull this off to the side to start from the top. Let me come back over here to find, we're just going to take one of my kids' photos here in just a second. Okay, so first let's bring in the actual file that I'm providing for you, which is like the frame and these square pieces that we'll use to clip our photos into. Okay, so I'm in Design Space here. We've got the canvas open. Let me just tuck this off the way here. We're going to upload the file by going to the upload button in the design panel on your left-hand side. And then I'm going to click on Upload Image. And I need to open another file finder window. Usually I have this all prepared. Let's go to Fast and Festive 5. There it is. Okay, so this is my, this is my file right here. So the Pillow Photo Collage SVG. Mine's got this nice little preview here, but if yours looks like a Chrome, an Edge, or a Firefox icon, that's your SVG. You're going to go ahead and drag that right over to Upload Image and click Continue at the bottom. And then click upload and it'll just drop it right here into Design Space. So before you go any further, you're going to need to think about the size that you want this to be. Mine's uploading at about 9.8 inches and it's a perfect square. So if you were going with like a 12-inch pillowcase like this one is, you're going to go to 11.5. If you're going smaller than this, then you can play around with if you want to adjust it. Don't go too small. But if you happen to find like a cute little, I don't know, 8x8 pillowcase or something like that, then you could adjust that. But you're going to want to think about that beforehand. And like I said, today, I'm going to be using a larger version. And so I'm going to scale this to 11.5, which is the max width I can cut on my machine. So there's going to be that border, that negative white space around it, just to show you guys some difference. So I'm going to scale this up. And I'm going to come to any one of these corners. You can click, hold, and drag to scale. Or since I know I want it to be exactly 11.5, which is the max, I can come up to the size, the width and height at the top here, and I can just type that in. And if that lock icon is locked, it'll automatically adjust both the width and the height at the same time. So now I've got my scale set, which has to happen before we insert images. Otherwise, we'll have to piece it back together and do it later on. So always scale before you go any further here, okay? Any questions I need to? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring my photo in now. So make sure you have photos ready to go. Usually we have them on our phone devices, right? We can just send them to our computer. If you're like an Apple user, you can airdrop them to yourself. If you're not an Apple user, just email them to yourself and download them on your computer from your email. Whatever works for you and your particular tech setup. But you just want to be able to have your photos. You're going to need 6, 7, 8 of them in this case. So I'm going to go back to that upload button. And I'm going to click upload image again. And this time I'm going to bring over, where did it go? Hang on, it's there. There it is. I'm going to bring over a picture, a silly picture of me and my son. So we're going to drag and drop that file here. So this is just a PNG or JPEG format image. So it's a print and cut style image. You upload it exactly the same way as an SVG in the same spot. You're just going to get a different result when we click continue. So when we click continue, it's going to ask you if you want to remove a background, if you want to erase anything. For the nature of this project, we don't want to alter anything. We want to just hit apply and continue at the bottom. And then you're going to get choices as well. Yes, I see you, buddy. Okay. Sorry, my son was just popping up. And then you're going to get, not the one on here, the real one. And then you're going to get 3 other options. You're going to get the multi-layer, where it can convert basically from an image pixel-based into a layered SVG. That's still in beta mode, and it's only for Cricut Access users. So, and that's not what we need here, but I'm just giving you a little explanation. Single layer would be the silhouette only. No internal patterns, no designs, no blended colors. And then there's flat graphic. Flat graphic is what we want in this case because we want to be able to print. We want to be able to have all those pretty colors preserved. And that's what you will always select if you're doing the print then cut process. So I'm going to select that, flat graphic, and click continue at the bottom. You can rename your image here if it helps you stay organized. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit of a lazy crafter, and I'll just hit upload and I'll just pop it in right back. So it might take a second to load depending on how big your image is. And with PNG and JPEG images, like they can come in really big depending on like the quality of your camera. I know for like me, I have an iPhone. And so when I take certain photos with it, it like, if I don't have my settings right, it'll literally just make the photo like 20 inches. So yeah, 28 by 21 inches. That's what it came in at. So obviously that is way too big for what we need. So we're just start by just scaling it down to somewhat normal size there. Coming at any of these corners, you can scale up or down. Okay. And then you're going to think about placing these photos into the picture frame. And here's where that technique comes in. You're going to go back to your original upload here, which is this frame. You want to right click and you want to ungroup. Okay. I'm just going to move the black frame out of the way for the time being. Then you're going to want to position and scale these photos to fit, just roughly estimating how big they'll be, okay? Because you're going to literally stack the green and the photo together because we're going to slice it out to create the result we're looking for. So I'm going to say, let's say I want this photo of my son and I to be on one of these big pieces here. Now this is actually a subgroup. So see how I click on that and it's still all one piece? You'll need to right click again and ungroup one more time to select these individually. That's what we need, individual selection, okay? So let's say I want this photo to go here. I'm gonna hover over here, kind of getting perspective, and I'm gonna scale this down just a bit more because there is still some room to do that. And then I'm gonna send this picture to the back. And we're adjusting the arrangement of our layers here so we can see what part of the picture we're gonna slice out. So taking this selected, go up to the top menu area, this top edit bar, the arrange tool. You want to click on that and send the photo to the back. Okay. And then I'm going to pull this over and I'm going to look here. And I mean, you can pull these other ones away if that's like helpful for you. You can absolutely like pull these off. It's not a big deal. But for me, I can usually just sort of sneak it behind and I can see that I'm covering the face, the main portion of the photo that we want to capture. And once I know I've got that space, that surface area covered, I'm then going to, with this picture still selected, also select the green that is on top of it. So to do that, you can hold your shift key on your keyboard and then click on the green. And you'll know you have selected both because both will be selected in your layers panel. So if I come over to my layers panel, you see how I have this highlighted green box here. And the picture we uploaded is also highlighted. I know that both of those are currently selected, which is exactly what I want before I go to the next step. So the next step is to slice this out. We're going to click on the slice tool at the bottom of the layers panel. So they have to be overlapping and you have to get your positioning right. And then once you're happy with it, you're going to click the slice tool. Now, if you need to hit the undo button, this isn't permanent. So don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. You can undo it when you're in the middle of working through this project setup. So I'm going to click slice, and here's my original piece. Okay, maybe I'll just go ahead and hide that using the eyeball tool. Here is the excess that we don't need. So I'm just going to delete that using my delete key on my keyboard or the trash can icon at the top. And now we have that perfectly sliced, that photo is perfectly sliced within that piece that will go within the frame of our photo collage pillowcase. Pretty cool, right? All right, so do we have any questions so far? Sorry, I'm popping over here and I'm just sharing my ugly side of my screen. Doesn't look like we have too many questions right now. If you guys are watching the replay, please ask your questions. I want to be able to help you make this. This is the project I was like most excited for. I don't know why. I just literally like, I woke up one day and I'm like, let's make a pillowcase full of photos. How do we do that? And I was just like, let's do this. So I'm super excited about this project. Now, as you can probably guess, this is a rinse and repeat. So you're going to bring in other photos. You're going to do the exact same thing for each and every one of those green squares. And once you do, you're going to have something that looks like this. And I'm just going to pull this back together here for you real quick so you can kind of get a visual. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me actually like do this another 7 times. Okay, so you could pull all these back over. This was just extra prep work that I was doing. Okay. And then let's see, let's pull this to the front. Okay. So obviously that's not perfectly lined up because I pulled it back in there, but that's what you'll have when you're ready to go to cut out. You'll have everything sliced out and prepped within that. Would you like to say hello? Say hi. Stand over here. They're over here on this camera. Miss Christabella is crafting with us today. She doesn't like the tech setup part, so she always listens and then she meanders in when she knows it's getting close to the cutting part. So you want to say hi to everybody? Say hi and use your words. Say hello. No, you're shy. Okay, she's shy. She's goofy. She's goofy. All right. So that's your setup process for that. Slice tool, bringing those photos in, scaling them, getting all of that worked out. And then make sure you save your project, because if you're ever going to make more of these, perhaps you're giving them to more than one family member, save it so you don't have to do this prep again. That's super important. Okay. Now I'm just going to, since I gave you an example here, I'm going to click and drag and get this one off, group it, hide it. Now there's one other step here that can be super helpful to note with print and cut. If I go to the cut screen right now and I hit make, okay, and I click on mat and then hit confirm, it's going to separate this out as it sees fit. Now, in my case here, I have played around with like the ability, hi Liberty, you hear the snoring? I have played around with the ability to try and like get these kind of closer together, cut down on a sheet of paper. Like I think I could probably get this one onto this sheet, and then we could have to use only 3 pieces of printable iron-on and not 4. What are you doing, buddy? Okay, that's fine. Please don't interrupt though, okay? All right, so let's try that because that would save us a little bit of material, right? Like I think I can do that. Let's give it a try. So if you're wanting to play around with maximizing your materials, using your attach tool is going to be a great way to do that. So I could grab like this big picture here, and then maybe I could grab these smaller ones and see. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. See if I can click and drag over those. Let me hit the attach. And it's giving me that red exclamation point. So it's saying that it is too large. So that's not going to work. So what I had figured before is I was able to get like these 3 together and the 3 smaller ones together here. But in all honesty, it still worked out to be 4 sheets. I wasn't able to get it perfectly into 3 sheets instead of 4. So I'm not going to mess with it too much. I'm just going to let it do its thing. If you're doing a different size of pillow though, and you've scaled this smaller than 11.5 inches, this might be something to consider. So if this was smaller and I hit the attach tool at the bottom of the layers panel, then these would all print together, which would be great because it would potentially save some of that material that we're using for that printable iron-on. So just think about that, play around with it a little bit. It's very particular to your needs, but play with that attach tool because it can be your best friend on saving materials. So I am going to detach this because for my size, it's just not working out for me. And I'm going to click on make and then select the mat. And I actually, I have this one that I've already pre-printed and I need to just print that one. So I'm going to hide these. You will obviously print all of yours, but I only need to print and cut one because I prepped the rest so you guys wouldn't have to wait on me. Okay, so here's the next step. You're going to need to send this, excuse me, to your inkjet printer. So you'll need to plug into your inkjet printer, or if you're connected via Wi-Fi, make sure you're connected. And then you're going to need to grab your printable iron-on, okay? Printable iron-on. It comes with 5 sheets in it, so be warned. Like, if you need to cut a full 4 sheets like I did to make the entire pillow, you may want to get more than 1 pack of this just to have a little bit of buffer. And there's other printable iron-ons out there, so don't feel like you have to do this one. It's not a requirement. Fair warning, FedEx is here, so I'm going to guess in about 5 seconds, my dog is going to start going. Say what? I know, but that's why. But like when he walks up to the door, she's going to like, come on, she's a dog. Her ears are like, I can hear when Santa's leaving his workshop. All right, so printable iron-on here. Okay, there is the white side, your print side, and then there's the grid side with the green. So however your printer works, you're going to need to know how to load that. If that means you load face down with the green up, take note of that. If it means you have a rear tray like I do and you're sticking it in the back, make sure it's facing forward. If you need to do a test print on a scrap piece of copy paper to make sure you have it right so you don't waste this, highly recommend that. But you're going to need to load this into your inkjet printer. Now, I'm not going to try to walk you guys over to my inkjet printer, but I will walk you through what I do to get it printed. So back here on the screen, I'm going to hit continue at the bottom. I'm going to get this screen here. And when it's on a print then cut, you're going to get a button that says send to printer. Okay, so this is where you want to be connected to your printer, whether it's a cable or it's Wi-Fi. So I'm going to click send to printer, and you're going to get a pop-up that looks something like this. I personally always use the system dialog and toggle that on. And the reason I do this is because it lets you make adjustments for your particular printer settings. Otherwise, it will use the defaults that are always there. Okay, it will always use the defaults otherwise. I like doing system dialog because I need to select for my printer that there is a rear tray selection and a bottom tray selection. I also want to be able to select best quality over normal quality because these are photos and we want our photos to print as crisp and nicely as possible, right? So toggling that. Are you kidding me, Liberty? Did you guys hear how loud that store was? I don't know how much of that you can hear. This has some good noise cancellation, but she is being obscenely loud. Can you quiet down over there? You're very distracting. I know. You're mad because I'm not making the puppy pillow today, and you say you're going to disrupt the crafting experience? Okay. All right. Add bleed. So I get this question a lot. What is add bleed? Add bleed adds a little bit of extra color around the edge so that when your Cricut is cutting this out, after it reads the black registration marks, it's going to have a little bit of extra color so it's edge to edge color once it is cut. Otherwise, if it was like it got it off by even the teeniest bit, you might have a white margin on the side. So 99.9% of the time, that add bleed needs to stay on, okay? Any questions I need to take before I keep going?
Shannon had 2.
Okay. Go ahead and read them out for me so I don't have to.
Do you have to have a black frame?
A black frame for like the black vinyl? Yeah, no, you can do whatever color you want. That's just what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing for mine. So if you want to make this blue, red, if you want to do gold or something like that, absolutely make it whatever color you want. I would just recommend for best results, something like an everyday iron-on. I'm sure things like holographic or metallic iron-on might work just fine. It more than likely would. I just personally haven't tested it with this particular scenario. So I'm telling you that to be completely honest so that you're like not thinking that, okay. So any everyday iron-on can absolutely work, and 99% chance that like holographic and that kind of stuff would also work if you wanted to play around with that option. And then what was the other question?
Do you put all of the pics slice and then bring forward when they are aligned?
In Design Space, so you're talking about like this canvas setup. So you can absolutely bring like them for, like when I showed you when you slice and then you get rid of the extras, right? And then we're just left with that photo piece that I showed. As far as like bringing the frame back forward, like you can if you want to aesthetically be able to see it all pieced together beforehand. But ultimately, what matters is just having all those pieces sliced out, like I showed you, and then you'll be piecing it together here, which I'll show you how to do that with as little effort as possible. But the arrangement of how it looks on the canvas in Design Space is not the important part, because we're going to be taking it, cutting it out in different pieces, and then layering it all together. So the arrangement in your setup doesn't actually affect the result of, you know, like if this and this photo prints out whatever, as long as they're within the shapes and the sizes, then you'll piece it all back together here and it'll all come together. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have another question on that. But you would just repeat the process that I showed you of slicing the photo, getting rid of the excess. You can hide the green piece that we use as the template if you want to reuse it later on, and just save that sliced out result and repeat it for each of the blocks. Same way. Hope that makes sense. And there'll be a replay of this. So if you want to go back and like watch that section again and reprocess it for yourself and then practice it, then that'll be available to you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit print on this. And when I do, because I'm using a system dialog option, the toggle we put on, it's going to pop up a system dialog box. Yours is going to look wildly different than mine because every printer and computer is different, right? But if you don't see it pop up, like you're not seeing it pop up right here for me, it's because it's behind Design Space. You need to minimize Design Space to be able to actually see it. So going up here to my minimize button, there is my printer system dialog box. So for me, and I use a Canon series, I want to feed from the rear tray. I have that option. You may not. Perhaps you just have a single tray. I do want to say that for anyone who has this option, rear tray will be better, and do your best to choose the highest quality because we're working with photos, right? So we're going to click on best for that. And then I am going to click rear tray. Now to actually execute the print here, which my screen is being shared in all weird ways right now, you're going to click the print in the system dialog box down here at the bottom. Again, yours will look a little different, but I would click print and then it's going to go to print. Okay. So I'm going to actually close this out and cancel it because I already have it printed. Once it is printed, so let's pretend printer was going over there. It printed out. Okay. Now you have this box on your screen that looks like this. Verify the print quality. So it says it should look something like this. So looking at what we have here, we see we have black registration marks. This is why you must print through Cricut Design Space. If you try and just print off your printer and then stick it onto the mat and there's no registration marks and the process hasn't gone through Design Space, Cricut's going to have no idea where to cut on the mat. So I'm going to tell on myself for a minute. When I got my Cricut 13 years ago, I got the Explore 1, which was like, I think the first machine to do print and cut. And I did not understand the concept of printing through Design Space because I needed the registration marks. I literally was wanting to print my husband a Gators, he's a Florida Gators fan. So I wanted to print him like a Florida Gators decal. And I printed it out. I'm like, oh, I love this image. I'm like, print it out and he'll get to put it on his computer or something like that. And I printed it out and I just stuck it on the mat. And Cricut's just like scanning it. And then every time it stops and it's like, can't print, or it says like, can't cut, marks not found, or marks unreadable. I'm like, why is it unreadable? I can see the image. It's just fine. And then I realized I never actually learned the proper procedure that you had to print through Design Space. So you had those black registration marks. This is a very common beginner mistake. And it can be confusing, right? When you don't know what you don't know, it can be confusing. So that was the 13-year-ago version of me. A little story to tell myself. All right, so I'm going to hit done because everything looks good there. And then I'm going to select my Cricut device. And for me, it's my Maker 3. And I'm going to connect via Bluetooth. So if you're connecting via USB cable or anything like that, you can absolutely do that. What do you need, bud? Okay, but buddy, you can't keep coming and interrupting. It's not time for conversation. I'm teaching right now. Okay. Quietly, please. Thank you. it's Saturday. So like my other days I'm teaching, the kids are at school, and now it's like, oh, let's come and ask 20 questions. What's for lunch? Peanut butter and jelly? Need help with this? Okay, so now we're going to select our base material. So again, I'm using the Cricut brand printable iron-on here, so that's what I'm going to look up. I'm going to click Browse All Materials, and then I'm going to click, I'm just going to type in a keyword here, so like print, and then we'll be able to see right here, printable iron-on for light, or if you're using the dark, you can select that, and you're going to want to select that material and click Done. Okay, so now it's time to load this onto our map. Load our printable iron onto our map. And just so I don't have to go back and forth with my screen sharing here, once we're done with this, we're then going to move on to the everyday iron-on. And the only difference when we go to do that is going to be I'm going to select the everyday iron-on material. So just we'll be changing our material selection at that point in time. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen to bring you guys down here so you can see what I'm doing, okay? So let me do that and bringing y'all down. All right, my pillowcase out of the way there. So here is my printed result, and we're going to line it up at the top corner. You might want to grab that brayer tool if you have it, and then you can press it, kind of just roll it to press it nice and smooth onto the map. Now, I do want to warn, if you've never calibrated your machine before, your Cricut machine for print and cut, you do need to go through that process. When you're in Design Space, go to your profile at the top right-hand side and click on Settings, and you will find a machine calibration setup in there, and it'll walk you through the calibration, okay? I have an entire separate post and instructions on that. I will link that in the video description. And honey, if you want to go to the blog and find the one that's the I think the post is actually called Print and Cut versus SVG, like what's the difference? And then it talks about machine calibration in there. So you can find that, and we'll drop it in the comments for now for those who need it now. So just make sure you do that. Otherwise, your cut might be wonky, okay? So that's the first thing you got to do. So I'm going to go ahead and load this onto my machine. My machine's hanging out back here. So I've already selected that material. We're going to go ahead and load the guide under, or sorry, load the mat under the white guide. Press the double arrow flashing button, and it's going to align the map first. And then once it does that, I'm going to press the play or the Cricut C icon to proceed with the cut. And what you're going to see your machine do at that point is start the scanning process for print and cut, okay? So I'm going to press the go button, looks like a Cricut C or a play icon. And at this point, Cricut is going to use its sensor. There's a sensor in there, and you might even see a light that shows up, and it's scanning the four corners of the black registration marks. That's how Cricut is able to determine from the software where it needs to cut that square out that it printed. Hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions though. All right, so it's going to do its thing there. While it's doing its thing, I've already printed my other ones, right? And if you have like a really big chunk left over down here that you want to use for something else, you could probably get away. If you're like good with your printer, you could probably get away with reversing which side prints first and then maybe be able to like maximize this. Like that's my one complaint with print and cut is like it's super hard to maximize materials sometimes. And so that can be costly and frustrating, but try to use like the attach tool when you can to maximize the area. That can help. Now, these are some examples of ones that have already been cut, printed and cut. And this is the printable iron-on. And so it's going to easily just peel off with our fingers. And I'll get to that in just a second. But first, pressing the double arrow flashing button, I've unloaded the mat, and this has been cut. Now, for those of you who are wondering, this is very simplistic, right? They are squares. So if you're like, I want to maximize my material that much more and not have the Cricut cut the squares, can I just print these photos like on a sheet of paper or something like that and then be able to cut them? You can absolutely do that. You're just going to need to make sure you have them scaled properly. You might have to use like Canva or a Word doc or a Google Doc to put them in. Make sure they're like scaled and you have it print at actual size, so nothing is adjusted there. It is a few extra steps. So it's kind of like pick your heart. Like, which one do you want to do? Do you want to sacrifice the extra material and not have to worry about those steps? Or do you really want to maximize the material and be like, I'm just going to forego the registration marks. I'll just cut it with a straight cutter or a pair of scissors. Just throwing that out there. I personally don't do that because I'm one of those people who like, I want it precise and I know I'll make more mistakes trying to do it that way probably. So I just throw it out there because I know there'll be somebody who's going to ask or wonder about that at some point when someone's watching the replay. They're going to be like, what about this? All right, so I'm going to peel this off. Okay, so I'm just peeling my mat away. I'm going to bring you guys back down here in a minute. And before I do that, let's load our black vinyl. So this is Everyday Iron-On. Again, you can use any color you want. And we would load this up and get the next sheet cut. And I'm just going to show you how that would load real quick. Same as before, iron-on vinyl, shiny side, liner side, down, okay? And you would select your corresponding material in Design Space. For me, that's Everyday Iron-On. If you're using Design Space, it automatically mirrors. If you're not using Design Space, make sure that you mirror it so that it comes out the correct direction. Using that sprayer tool to smooth the material out, okay? And then we would go ahead and load this into our machine and let it cut out that black frame piece, okay? Now, I'm just gonna load that for example's sake, but I already actually have one cut, so I'm not gonna go through I'm not gonna let my machine cut it, because I'm just gonna show you guys the after part. Before I show you the after part, we need to actually set our temperature. And I want our heat press here to be set up and ready to go while I'm weeding, okay? So if you guys were with me in my other Fast and Festive 5s, I showed you that Cricut heat guide where you can pull up the exact time and temperature that you might need. So I'm going to show you that really quickly since I want to be thorough as always. Okay, so if you go to cricut.com/EN for English heat guide, then you're going to see this little handy guide right here. And if you select your transfer material, so Everyday Iron-On, I'm using a polyester-based pillowcase, but if you're using a Cotton Collie blend, a poly blend / cotton blend, or 100% cotton, then you would select that material and then select your base material. And then you could hit apply, and it's going to give you the time and the temp and the pressure, and then it should be a cool peel. Fortunately for us, we are using two different materials here, right? We're using printable iron-on and everyday iron-on. If I select the printable iron-on and I select the same base, I get the exact same time and temp. Yay! Okay, so I just want to show you how you would do that here. And that's just, for your information. Let's go back now to setting that up. Okay, so here is my Easy Press 3. I'm going to power it on. Okay, and I need to set it to 315 for 30 seconds. So this is the heat button here. I'm going to press that. It's already set to 315, but if you needed to go up or down, you would press that a second time so that it's flashing. And then you would increase or decrease, okay? And then same thing with the time. You could hit the time, increase or decrease, and mine's already set and good to go. So I'm just gonna let it heat up while I weed, okay? So I'm gonna set this aside right there. And let's go ahead and weed and pull these apart. I don't know if Ella wants to come back and do this part or if I should just let her do her thing. You can go ask her because this is the part where she can weed the vinyl. So this would be our result that we pulled off that was cut with the black frame. Okay, I had it pre-prepped. And then for our printable iron-on here, this is where I know it's easy to think, okay, you're working with some sort of printable vinyl, right? So surely there's transfer tape involved or liners involved. No, there's actually not. You actually just lift it up. So it's very different from working with other vinyls, and it can be a little stubborn. It can feel really fragile. It's not as fragile as it feels. Do be careful, but I haven't had anything rip or tear on me. So I'm just letting you know, it's going to feel like you're handling something that's super delicate. And you're literally gonna just lift it off the liner. Are you gonna come help, Miss Ella? You can't bring the blanket over, sweetie. You got too many cords over here. Are you gonna help? I need a yes or no, sweetheart. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's how you would take that off. It literally is like, it feels like you're doing something wrong. It's really weird, right? That's how you're going to take those off. I'll get back to that in just a second. I'm going to have Ella demonstrate weeding for us over here. Let me unload. Because the vinyl likes to curl, I like to put it back onto the mat so that it's not curling on me. So baby girl, let's get the weeding tool. Okay, so can you see those lines? I know it's a little tricky, but I need you to be very careful that we're only weeding the boxes out. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. You're good. You want some help?
This isn't as sharp as the one I usually use.
Where's my other weeding tool? How do I only have one weeding tool? Do you see a weeding tool over there? Oh, you have one in there. Can I have that? There you go. Make sure you're showing what you're doing. You want to explain what you're doing?
No.
No? Okay, so she's weeding out the vinyl here, and you want to weed out the squares because we just want the frame. Okay? Very nice. All right, why don't you can work on that one. I'll do this one. Okay. Once you get it started, baby, you can also just hold with your hand and pull back. It might go a little faster for you. There you go. That was our heat press, saying it's ready to go. See, we got to be careful. You kind of pulled at the frame there. Okay. Okay. I know it feels like such a waste of vinyl because you're pulling these big chunks out. Here, let me start it for you so you don't accidentally. I know you're trying. I know it's hard to see, and I just don't like the frame to get out there. Can you pull? Go ahead. Can you pull that one for me? Okay. And this one. Okay.
And then the top.
And then, yeah, we got to get here. Got to get that extra piece off, right? There we go. Here, you want to pull? Pull all the way around the frame. Very nice. A little bit over here. Here, I'm going to pull that. Yay! All right. You want to throw all that in the garbage for me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right. So there we go. There's our frame, right? There we go. That's a little better. All right. So there's our frame. And now comes the part where you're going to want to go back to design space, okay? Go back to design space. I'm not going to do that on my screen here, but you're going to want to look at the design. Where did you place? Ella's going bye-bye. She's waving bye-bye. She's like, I'm just here for the weeding. All right. So you want to go back to design space and like, where did you place each of these photos? The boxes are all pretty darn similar. So it's not like the end of the world if you put the one big one over here and it was supposed to go over here. So there's plenty of flex there, but it can be helpful to just look at, what was the order in which I did it. If you kept an order, I've done it where I don't keep an order. So like that, they're all pretty straight boxes. Is that Bingo or Rolly? Rolly saying hi. Okay. Mr. Rolly, thank you for saying hi. I need to keep teaching, okay? All right. Here is your principal iron-on, okay? We peeled it off. It feels really flimsy. You're going to place it face down into each one of these squares on the liner. So we still have our liner here, right? That we just weeded from. You're going to place this face down. And this is just this little bit of manual. But again, because we're working with perfect squares in most cases, well, not perfect squares, but very square straight edges, it's quite easy. And you're just going to smooth it out. You'll have the stickiness of the everyday iron-on actually helping you like hold it in place. So just kind of smooth it out. Make sure there's no major wrinkles or anything like that. And you're going to do this for each and every one of these. So let me grab this one. Kind of peel it up. I do not recommend using a weeding tool for this because you will more than likely puncture part of it. You really got to just use your fingernail or your hand to get that to release off of the printable iron-on liner. That's the word I'm looking for. All right, so there's my next one. Face down. Put it in the next square. It's the same type of size. Nikki, you're being clickety-clack. You hear her walking. We need to trim her nails. She's extra loud when she walks right now. And then smooth it out. Just like that. We're going to repeat that with the rest. Okay. Now, this one. I think this is probably the only thing I don't like about this is that it's not like it likes to cling to like the liner more than I would prefer. So you kind of have to like really use your nail to get it. You want to come help, Liberty? You want to come help? I'm going to take that giant snort as a no. I'm going to just get a bunch of these, excuse me, a bunch of these off before I go any further. I probably should have come prepped with them already off, but I wanted to make sure I showed you guys kind of the messy middle process. So I'd say out of all of our Fast and Festive 5s, we did what? The blanket, the candles, the journals, the stuffies. Like out of all of them, this one might take the most time just because of this setup. It's still pretty fast once you like know what you're doing, but it does. This one's a little extra love. All right. So you can look at your screen or you can just line these up and be like, oh yeah, that fits. And like I said, they're squares and they're all pretty consistent. So for the most part, not gonna be a problem, even if you don't get them in the exact order that you cut them out in. Is there any questions I need to address?
No.
I think that was a no. If you guys have questions, let me know. We're going to end up We're going to end up pressing this entire thing in one shot. And because the heat and temperature settings are exactly the same, then it is not a problem. Okay, I think this one actually goes up here because I'm seeing that it's a little bit shorter on one end. Let's see. Yeah, I think that one goes up there. There's like one square in here where the edge is like literally like maybe not even a millimeter shorter. It's pretty hard to tell. All right, fill these last ones up and get them in here. All right, so who would you make this gift for? You can totally make it for yourself, by the way. Totally make it for yourself. And if you don't get this down right the first time, you can lift the iron-on. Not a one and done, thankfully. So these photos here were from like our vacations. And when I say vacation, I mean staycation, because we live in Central Florida. So of course we're around everything Disney. And when you have kids that are 10 and 11, they love to go to theme parks. And so we're like, okay, instead of doing a big fancy travel, having to get on an airplane, all of that stuff, let's just do a staycation. So we just literally drive 40 minutes, find a Florida deal on a resort, and we do the family theme park thing. And so we've done that for like the last 3 years, I think. Sort of like a summer tradition. Like, let's make a photo pillowcase with those photos. All right. Yay, we got our last one on there. Make sure everything is fairly pressed. You're using that liner to your advantage, that iron-on vinyl liner in those blank spaces to your advantage. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute, okay? I know, baby, I know. Okay.
You got 2 questions.
2 questions. Read them off for me, please.
Can this be washed? Can the pillowcase be washed if needed at some point?
Okay, so yes, it can. I will be very specific in saying if you can avoid that, please do. It's not a make or break. But here's been my experience with printable iron-on, okay? The printable iron-on works good. It sticks to things. But when it goes through a wash and a dry, especially the dryer, it is going to slowly break down the integrity of the press to the fabric. So it'll start to peel, crack, or curl. So I did one of these on a t-shirt, okay, and I did it for my daughter, and we put it in the washing machine, full rough cycle, then dryer, did that a few times, and it was trashed. So if you're going to do it, wash it gentle, cold, hang dry. That will work and preserve it so that it lasts as long as possible. If you can try and avoid it and make it just like a decorative pillow, something that maybe isn't going to get like laid on a lot or anything, and you can avoid a lot of washing, if any at all, it's going to make it last so much longer, if not indefinitely. So I hope that helps.
And then just to follow back, are you sticking the pictures on the frame itself?
So there is a bit of overlap on this. So like when I'm placing these down, like if you look right there, yeah, I'm still here. It's yelling at me. It's like, safety hazard. So yes, there is a teeny tiny bit of this picture overlap right onto the frame itself. Have not had a problem with that. Have not had any problems with that at all. When I've done my testament practice with it, it still goes on just fine. So yeah. Okay. So next part here is going to be grab our pillowcase. And move my computer a bit. All right. So this is the pillowcase I'm using here. This is, let me just double check. This is a really silky looking one. I hope this is the polyester one. It almost doesn't feel like it. You ever have like too many blanks and you're like, I have no idea which one is it? We're going to go with it. Let's see what happens. No guarantees, y'all. All right. Let me get a drink real quick. I'll lose my voice. Now, for pillowcase, I didn't say this earlier, but if you have a lint roller, I have one somewhere. I did have one somewhere. I put it in a drawer in an attempt to clean up yesterday, and now, of course, I can't find it because why would you put something away and know where it is? Oh, there it is. Lint rollers, those can help. Just to get any dust, debris, lint, that kind of stuff off there. And then I would pre-warm this, okay? Because there's wrinkles. Like, you don't want to be fighting these wrinkles as you're pressing it for the first time. So I'm going to, this is a big pillowcase. Like I said, I'm kind of experimenting in real time with you guys here. So we'll see what happens. I would just I'm just hitting the go button for 30 seconds and kind of just pressing 10 seconds or so here and there. So I want to just get some of those wrinkles out, maybe some of the moisture out, heat the fabric up. That is good practice in general. I will admit plenty of times I have forgotten this step or I just don't do it for whatever reason, and I've still been successful. I did it with the stuffies the other day. I was like, yeah, I could have probably pre-warmed the stuffies, but it still worked out in the end. All right. That's still close to the edge. Okay. So there we go. You can see our wrinkles. It smoothed everything out. Kind of prep that fabric. I'd let it cool a little before you go to line anything up, because if there's a lot of heat coming off of it, when you go to place down your design, it's going to automatically start warming that adhesive and it could start sticking prematurely. And if you're still trying to move it around. So I would let it cool. You can make it cool faster by shaking it, kind of airing it out, fanning it, cooling it off. Yeah. Just doing that a few times already. It's like almost completely cool now. Okay. So now the fun part, the terrifying part, the was all my work worth it part. You're going to very carefully, and again, make sure everything's pressed down. And it is. I just like to give it one last check. I have a little bit of a bubble here. Let me fix that. Just saw that bubble. Generally, there's not a lot of bubble issue, but I think that was my fault. I hadn't pressed it down all the way. There we go. Okay. So now taking this off the mat, I'm going to flip the mat over. I want to just get this released off of the mat. All right. Now it's time to place. Now, this is going to obviously have a lot of white space around it, which does make the application easier. I am going to tell you that when I did the application of this one, where it was edge to edge, because it's a smaller pillow, I did have to lay it. And as you can see, if you look really closely, like it's pretty straight along the edge, but like this side here actually curls around a tiny bit more than the opposite side. Once it's in the pillow though, it's like, I mean, it's pretty hard to tell, and there's flexibility to the pillow, right? Like it's gonna kind of have a little puff here and there. So you will kind of experience that in a different capacity if you're going with an edge to edge type of pillow. So I'm just noting that there for your information. We know this is 11 and 11.5. So if you're wanting to get real technical, you could, and I don't, guys, I do not get this technical, but if you wanted to, you can be like, okay, this is an 18-inch, pillow. It's actually more like 17.5-inch pillowcase. And then you could divide up, like, do I have the right amount of width on both sides so that it's perfectly centered? You could absolutely do that. I did not do great at math, and I like to do the glorified eyeball it. We'll just spot it. And I think it looks good. And when it's in a pillow, it's going to have 3D depth to it. So if there are minor mistakes like that, I promise you, it's almost going to be impossible, if not impossible to tell. So this is why I kind of just am like, that's who I am, and that's what I do. All right. I'm happy with that. It looks good. I'm going to go ahead and press. Now, my press does not cover this entire thing, so I'm going to press half at a time. Okay. I have my computer who I'm fighting with over here. I have a question real quick. Let's see. Do you need to put something inside the pillowcase to prevent color bleed or sticking? No, Cheryl, I have not experienced any need for that because the color is on the other side of if you're referring to like what's been printed on the iron-on, that color is facing up. It's not going to it's not facing down. It wasn't printed on that side. So it'll be good. I think if I'm answering your question correctly. And I have not experienced any color bleed with that. So let's go ahead and we're going to do one side here. Just going to place that. And we'll do for 30 seconds. And then I'll move it over and do this 30 seconds over here. Okay. So what are some of your photos that you would put in here? Family photos, holiday photos, pet photos. I know our community has lots of people with fur babies in it. I want to see some fur baby photos. Kitty cats, dogs, any pets you got. I want to see. We've got both our fur babies just a few feet from us up here. They're being quiet for the moment. All right, so that was the countdown on that. I'm going to lift. Give myself some more space. I'm going to scoot this over, and I'm going to do the other side. Careful. I'm probably working in a less tight space than I am. Maybe, hopefully. All right, so we're going to let that second side count down there. And then this is going to be a cool peel. So what that means is everything's got to be completely cool to the touch before we try and lift. And then we will slowly test that lift to determine if it stuck. And if it didn't, then we will make adjustments. Cheryl says you make one with your new granddaughter. Congratulations. That's awesome. I love that. I know so many people this year who have had a new grandbaby or niece or nephew in their life. It's just been one of those years, I guess. Put my press away. Okay. So we do want to let this cool. This side's obviously already more cool than this side. And we don't want to start trying to lift anything until it's more cool to the touch. Sometimes I'll kind of give it a little bit of a shake, so you do want to be careful doing that. It kind of just helps fan it and cool it off, but really patience is key at this point. I'm just giving it a hot beat. So can you believe that we have made all these gifts this week? So our blankets, our candles, our journals, our stuffies, and now our pillowcases. I've never done a Christmas series like this before, just for our members, but I think it was really fun. And I really wanted like something that was going to be super practical to create quickly. Like this is the longest project out of all of them, for sure. But like the ones when we did the candle and the journals, like we did the journal one yesterday, that entire thing with full detailed explanation was like 30 minutes. So if you're making it on your own, I think you can whip those journals out. You could probably whip out like half a dozen journals in an hour if you needed to. So I think that's pretty cool. Thanks, Jamie. I'm glad I did too. All right, this is a little warm, but because I like to play dangerous games, it looks like it's sticking pretty well. So I'm going to go slow. It's mildly warm. It's not cold, but I'm seeing no issues. If something's like, it's lifting, it's not sticking, you need to set it back down. You need to put the liner back down, and you need to put it back on for like 15 seconds again for the whole thing, and then you'll be good to go. That moment of truth, right? Dum. My husband's like, dum dum dum. One of these days, I am sure there is going to be a live where there's like an epic fail. And when that happens,
We'll have it recorded.
We'll have it recorded so that it can go down in history as an epic fail. And then we can laugh at the epic fail all together. Woohoo! Okay, that came out good. Yay! There we go. What do you guys think? That's pretty cool, right? That is so much fun. Okay, so this was a much bigger pillowcase, right? And I don't have an insert for this one to actually show you the inserted result, but you can see the inserted result with their other one. But this is a great compare and contrast of like, do you want the bigger with the extra negative space? Do you want the smaller with the edge to edge? Now you can kind of see how both are going to look in terms of the pillowcase. Awesome. Okay, so Paula says, great job. FYI, Bath and Body 3-wick candles are on sale today and tomorrow for $9.95. White Barn. Yes, love White Barn. Thanks for the tip, Paula. Yes, absolutely. So if you're doing the candles that we did the other day, looks like there's a great sale for Bath and Body White Barn. Go check them out. Go grab them this weekend so you can get all of these projects done next week and they're ready for Christmas. Christmas. Oh my gosh, Christmas is 3 weeks from last Thursday. Yeah, not yesterday, but
Wednesday.
From Wednesday. Oh, we're that close?
2 weeks from this coming Wednesday.
Oh my goodness, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. All right, my lovelies. So how much did you enjoy making these photo pillowcases? This was project 5 for our Fast and Festive 5. We have all of them now. All of the replays are available. I know a lot of you are watching this replay, so if you haven't watched the stuffies, if you haven't watched the journals, if you haven't watched the candles, the blankets, go and check them all out. Get your supplies, go download the files, and get to making. And make sure you share your projects with us. Post them in our Facebook community. I have seen several of you post in there. We had a star last night, and I'm not going to try to remember the name off the top of my head, but she did the journals as like place settings for her Thanksgiving table. Maybe it was Carol. Was it Carol? It might have been Carol. I can't remember. I'm probably getting it wrong. I'm not the best with remembering names if I haven't seen you in person. So I just thought that was amazing. Like she was putting the gratitude journals as like place settings for her guests for Christmas, not Thanksgiving, for Christmas. I was like, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Such a creative idea. And I've been seeing lots of other projects in there. So keep sharing. If you're not on Facebook, send us a message to hello@abbykirstencollections.com so we can see it. I still want to see it. All right. All right. So if you guys have any other questions, you know where to find me. I am here. Replay watchers, please ask your questions. Send us a message. I've had so much fun with you guys. Craft Tech Talk episode 1 is happening on Monday at, did you find that timeout? I want to double confirm that I got that right.
Oh, give me 2 seconds.
Hang on, I can look too. Craft Tech Talk is Monday, December 9th at 4 p.m. Monday, December 9th at 4 p.m. So if you have a tech type question, a technique question, go to the video description underneath this video, scroll down beneath the supplies. There is a link to submit your question. We've already got several who have submitted their questions, so I'll be addressing them. And as many as I can pack in that hour, I will. So if you want to join me Monday at 4 p.m., that's going to be another live for us to hang out together. All right, beautiful people. Thank you so much for spending time with me this week and showing up and just consistently showing up for me. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So you guys have a beautiful weekend. Very Merry Christmas. And let us know if you have questions. All right. Bye for now.